All right, let's dive into one of Shakespeare's most powerful and, frankly, most devastating plays, the story of King Lear. We're going to break down this absolutely brutal story of family, betrayal, and a terrifying descent into madness.
So, the entire tragedy really boils down to these three things. You've got an old king in ancient Britain who's just ready to retire. He comes up with this plan to divide his kingdom between his daughters. The problem is, his method, well, that turns out to be the fatal mistake that's going to unleash total chaos on everyone.
And this is where it all begins. It kicks off with a king's really foolish test, an act that's all about ego and vanity, and it's going to have catastrophic consequences.
Okay, so here's Lear's grand retirement plan. He gets his three daughters together and basically demands they tell him how much they love him. Whoever gives the best, most flowery speech gets the biggest chunk of the kingdom. Simple, right? His goal is just to hand off all his responsibilities and kick back. But, as we're about to see, it's a deeply flawed idea.
And right away, you see the family split right down the middle. The two oldest sisters, Goneril and Regan, they just lay it on thick. They give these gushing, totally fake speeches to get their hands on the land. But Cordelia, his youngest daughter, his favorite, she's horrified. She finds the whole thing disgusting and just offers her honest, simple love. She absolutely refuses to play her father's manipulative game.
Well, for telling the truth, Lear just explodes. In a fit of pure rage, he disowns her on the spot. He splits her part of the kingdom between Goneril and Regan and banishes her. But in a wild twist, the King of France, who's been watching all this, sees her true worth. He marries her anyway and whisks her away right before the storm is about to break over Britain.
Now, at the exact same time, there's this parallel story of family betrayal kicking off. The Earl of Gloucester has two sons, Edgar, his legitimate heir, and Edmund, his illegitimate son. And Edmund is just simmering with resentment. He starts spinning this web of lies to turn his father against the good and loyal Edgar. Now you got to pay attention to this subplot because these two stories, they are on a collision course.
Okay, now we are entering the heart of the storm, both literally and figuratively. The second Lear gives away his power, the consequences come crashing down on him, fast, hard, and devastatingly.
And his world falls apart so quickly it's dizzying. Goneril immediately turns on him, complaining about the small retinue of knights he kept for himself. Humiliated, Lear storms off to his other daughter Regan's castle, expecting sympathy. Instead, he gets even colder cruelty. Betrayed by both of them, stripped of everything, he just rushes out into a raging, violent storm. And it's out there, in the chaos, that his mind finally snaps.
And this is where the two plots collide in a stroke of pure Shakespearean genius. Out there on the heath, Lear finds a man who calls himself Poor Tom, this shivering, seemingly crazy beggar. But guess what? It's actually Edgar, Gloucester's son, hiding in disguise from his brother. The truly mad king meets the man who's only pretending to be mad. And ironically, it's in this madness that Lear starts to see the truth about suffering.
Meanwhile, the Earl of Gloucester is just horrified by how Lear is being treated. He can't stand it, so he decides to help the old king, an act of pure loyalty. But for Goneril, Regan, and her husband Cornwall, this is treason. And for them, it's the perfect excuse to get Gloucester out of the way for good.
And the punishment they dish out is one of the most shocking, brutal acts in all of literature. Right there, in his own castle, Regan and Cornwall hold Gloucester down, and they blind him. They gouge out his eyes. It's not just betrayal, it's pure sadistic cruelty.
Really, this is the question that just hangs over everything from this point on. The king is insane, his most loyal friend has been blinded, and evil seems to be winning at every turn. Is there any way to salvage anything from this wreckage?
What comes next is the final showdown. All that chaos starts to spiral into open warfare. The kingdom is consumed by cruelty, war, and a thirst for revenge.
Everything is happening at once. All the pieces are flying across the board toward one violent final confrontation. Edgar finds his blinded father wandering alone. Cordelia lands in Britain with a whole army to rescue Lear. And even in the villain's camp, it's all falling apart. Goneril is now plotting with Edmund to murder her own husband.
But in the middle of all this madness, we get this one brief, beautiful, heartbreaking moment of hope. Cordelia's army finds Lear. He's so ashamed and broken, he fully expects her to hate him. but she forgives him completely. When he insists she has every reason, every cause to hate him, she just says, "No cause, no cause." And for a second, you think, maybe, just maybe, goodness can actually win.
But don't get your hopes up. Remember what kind of play this is. This is a tragedy, and Shakespeare is about to deliver one of the most brutal endings he ever wrote.
The battle begins, and Cordelia's army is defeated. It's a disaster. She and Leah are taken prisoner by Edmund, who, without a moment's hesitation, gives a secret order for them to be executed in prison. Just like that, all hope is extinguished.
But right as Edmund is celebrating his victory, the villains' alliance just violently implodes. Edgar shows up in disguise and mortally wounds his brother Edmund in a duel. Then we find out Goneril has poisoned her own sister Regan out of jealousy over Edmund. When Goneril's plots are exposed, she kills herself. And as he lies there dying, Edmund finally confesses everything, including his order to kill Lear and Cordelia.
So there's this mad dash, a desperate race against time to get a message to the prison to reverse the execution order. But this is a story where good intentions just aren't enough. They don't make it. It's too late.
And then comes the moment that defines the entire play. Any shred of hope you had for a happy ending is just utterly shattered. Lear walks onto the stage, holding the body of his murdered daughter, Cordelia, in his arms, howling with a grief that is almost impossible to watch.
Overwhelmed by that anguish, the old king's heart finally gives out. He dies right there. Goneril is dead, Regan is dead, Cordelia is dead, and now Lear. Of his entire immediate family, not a single person is left standing. The devastation is absolute. 0 survivors.
And that's the brutal question Shakespeare just leaves us with. Think about it. In this story, the loyalty of Cordelia, of Gloucester, it leads them to nothing but suffering and death. The play offers no easy answers. It forces us to confront a universe where goodness isn't always rewarded, and a single foolish mistake can bring the entire world crashing down. It asks us to look right into the abyss, and it offers 0 comfort in what we find there.